With just about every hotel and motel during the 1960s and 1970s, having a television in each room was a big selling feature. These analog TVs had two large knob selectors on them for VHF and UHF signals, which were controlled by the antenna. They even had a special antenna wire that had two wires separated by a flat piece of plastic that would run to adjustable rabbit ears on top of the TV, or maybe even to the roof antenna. Adjusting the picture was just part of watching TV back then, and for those that didn't have a television, or especially a color television, a night in a motel with one of these was a treat. When you stepped into a hotel room during the 1960s and 1970s, you would quickly notice the bed, maybe because of the bright and floral patterns on the comforter. Each bed was made in the same way, with the pillows covered by the comforter and tucked in nice and tight. Pillows never sat on top of the blankets like they do today. One part of traveling and staying in a motel, especially in a vacation spot, meant mailing postcards back to your friends and family. In many motel and hotel lobbies, there was usually a spinning rack with various postcards promoting the location. But some even had postcards that featured a picture of the motel you were staying in. Dropping one of these in the mail ensured that everyone back home would be envious of your vacation. Phone lines in hotels and motels used something called a PBX network, which allowed them to connect with other phones in the building, but it required an outside line to actually make a phone call. By picking up the phone and dialing the lobby, a front desk worker would connect you with an outside line, and then you could make your call. Today, the telephone in the hotel room is hardly used, but it was a big deal to make calls back then. Motels, especially, were always trying to lure the weary traveler in, and they used flashy, big, and unique signage to do this. During the 1950s and 1960s, Googie design did just that, with futuristic and eye-catching architecture that extended to the signage, that was usually lit with bright lights. Listed on the sign were things like direct phone lines, wall-to-wall carpeting, and swimming pool, all of which drew families in for a night stay. Before key cards were introduced in the 1970s, travelers unlocked their rooms with traditional metal keys attached to a plastic key tag. These large tags were useful in a couple different ways. They usually had the name and address of the hotel, as well as the guest's room number, printed right on them. They also contained a small stamp reading "Guaranteed Postage Paid," which meant if you forgot to return the key to the front desk, you could simply drop it in the mail. It was less costly for the motels to pay for the postage than it was for them to replace the key. Those metal room keys also went hand in hand with key cubbies that could be found behind the front desk. Rather than carrying the room key with them while they were out and about, vacationers would deposit the key at the front desk whenever they left. This would also let the staff know which guests were present in case they needed to deliver a message. There's no denying that hotel owners were far more trusting in years past. Prior to the mid-1970s, guests didn't pay when they checked in, but rather as they were leaving. This practice allowed some people to crash and then dash. These people eventually became so common that they earned their own nickname, skippers, and drove many hotels to switch to a prepay system. If you frequented hotels and motels during the 1960s and 1970s, you might have come across beds that were equipped with vibrating massagers. Many motels had a motorized contraption called Magic Fingers that was attached to the mattress. By dropping a quarter in the box, you could have 15 minutes of relaxation following a long day of traveling. But as many discovered, the vibration just wasn't that relaxing, and they began disappearing from motel rooms. Before the days of computers, hotels kept their guest logs in handwritten books, with each guest signing in. Hotel owners eventually realized that anyone could just peruse the book, and came to the realization that the guest book was kind of an invasion of privacy at best, and a potential danger to guests. Eventually, guest books were relegated to the history books, although you can still find them at some inns or Airbnbs, but they are used more for reviews than anything else. The lobby of a larger hotel used to offer more than just postcards. During the 1950s and 1960s, it was common to see other services being offered, like a shoe shine. Back when we had fewer pairs of shoes, it was important to take care of the ones we had, so shoe shiners would be kept busy with guests coming and going. Another feature of hotel lobbies that could be found in the larger cities were barber shops. A haircut and a shoe shine added to the hospitality that was offered during this time. Within the nightstands of hotels and motels across the country, the Gideon Bible could always be found. As a kid, it was always fun to open the drawers just to check to see if it was there, which it always was. But in recent years, they have been disappearing. With political correctness and changes to religious affiliations, along with access to the Bible available on the internet, the tradition of finding this book in your room is becoming less likely. The 1950s, 60s, and 70s were a time that saw a huge portion of the population smoking. This meant that when staying at a hotel, you could request a smoking room. These rooms were outfitted with glass ashtrays and books of matches that had their logo on it. And because they had been smoked in often, they also had a built-in musty smell that identified it as a smoking room. The hotel matchbooks were a novelty that even non-smokers could take with them. Some even collected them from all the places they stayed. Let me know in the comments if I missed anything, and maybe even consider supporting the channel over on Patreon. If you enjoyed this video, consider watching this playlist, and then visit the channel to search the Recollection Road Library. As always, thank you so much for watching.